Ever feel ambitious at heart, but find yourself stuck in the same old habit of putting things off? If you have ever wanted a big change, but kept waiting for the perfect moment, this story might change how you think about action and consistency. In a small Chennai neighborhood where the scent of filter coffee mixed with the dust of the pavement and the distant chug of a local train marked the hours, lived Arjun, 26, full of clever plans and a trait that blocked him more than any lack of talent, his habit of postponing the first step. One rainy evening, a teacher from the local school handed him 2 small packets of seeds with a quiet warning that would force a choice. What Arjun did next would decide whether his dreams would sprout or wither. Listen closely, this is not just his story, it might be yours too. Arjun had always spoken of big things. He dreamed of building a simple online course to teach spoken English for neighborhood students and to help adults gain confidence. He had sketched lesson plans on scraps of receipt paper, recorded a few practice audios, and rehearsed introductions in front of the mirror, his voice shaking between hope and fear. Backstory came easily to him and to everyone who knew him. The barbershop owner Raju remembered Arjun as a boy who corrected tourists' pronunciation. Maya, his younger sister, recalled nights when he talked about starting classes but then watched TV instead. Priya, the neighbor, saw his notebooks pile up untouched. Samir, his friend, called him visionary but lazy. And Mrs. Rao, the retired teacher, smiled and called him promising yet fragile. The classroom idea was clear and the need was real. The smell of wet pavement after rain, the metallic tang of the school bell, the rough paper of his notebooks, and the weight of an unsent email pressed on him in equal measure. He wanted to change 1,000 lives, and he was afraid of starting with one. At first, his routine was the obstacle. Mornings, he woke with plans, made strong tea that steamed in a blue mug, scrolled through other people teaching, then closed the laptop and went to work at a shop. Nights, he rehearsed, and then fell asleep on a sofa that smelled faintly of coconut oil from his neighbor Asha. His habit of waiting for the right time repeated like a playlist on loop. In a conversation on a humid afternoon with Samir and Raju, the pattern showed. Arjun said, "I will launch next month." Samir asked, "Why next month? Why not today?" Arjun replied, "I need better slides." Raju chuckled and said, "Slides are nice, but students need you." Arjun hesitated and said, "What if they laugh?" Samir leaned forward and said, "They might laugh and then learn." That back and forth exposed the fear under the lazy habit. The market outside hummed with bicycle bells, the scent of frying snacks came through, and a cool breeze touched Arjun's neck as if urging him to move. One day, Mrs. Rao arrived with 2 seed packets wrapped in newspaper and a small note. She sat under the neem tree where dust smelled of hot earth and told him in a voice softened by years of teaching, "You have 2 packets. One has seeds that will grow if planted and watered each day. The other is empty and pretty. You can keep the pretty one on your shelf and dream. Or you can plant the seed and care for it. The choice is yours." Arjun held the packets, the paper rustling, felt roughness of the twine tied around them, and heard crows quarrel beyond the roof. He asked Mrs. Rao, "What happens if I forget a day?" She replied, "Then it will take longer to grow." He asked, "But what if it never grows?" She said, "Then you learn to care next time." He asked, "Who will water it if I go away?" She smiled and said, "You will go away less if the thing matters enough." That small object became a symbol of his choices, like a bookmark between possibility and action. Not long after, he made a choice that seemed safe but slow. He kept the pretty empty packet on the desk and placed the real seeds in a drawer for a more convenient time. The consequence came quietly. Weeks later, the community noticed his hesitation. Priya mentioned to Maya, "I saw his notebook again untouched." Asha, the baker, said, "He talks a lot, but he does not act." Raju gave him a pitying pat. Samir looked annoyed and said, "Arjun is losing daylight." The neighborhood students who had once shown up to his free taster session stopped coming. The once eager parents at the tea stall whispered that ambition without small steps is like a pot without water. Sensory detail turned sharp. The smell of stale tea and the creak of the shop door matched the dullness growing around his plans. The emptiness of the pretty packet on the shelf became a quiet accusation. That was the crisis moment when dream met consequence and he felt how fragile hope is without follow-through. That shock finally pushed him into motion. One morning, he took the seeds from the drawer, felt the cool soil between his fingers as he bought a small bag from the market and set a tiny pot on the windowsill, where sunlight warmed the glass and the mango tree outside whispered. The first days were awkward and heavy. He spoke aloud to the seeds, saying, "I will not fail you." Maya brought a cup of steaming filter coffee and said, "You look different today." Samir visited and asked, "Did you actually decide to start?" Arjun answered, "Yes, I planted, and I will water every day." Samir nodded and said, "Then come to the community center tonight and teach the first 10 minutes. In the evenings, he practiced in the smell of scooters, the smell of frying samosas, and distant temple bells. He set a timer on his phone, and each morning and evening he did small tasks. Dialogues with his students were short and real. The first student said, "Why should I trust this class?" Arjun said, "Because I learned by making mistakes." The student asked, "Will you help me with pronunciation?" Arjun said, "Yes, we will do it together." The exchanges multiplied from 3 sentences into longer supportive conversations. Small wins came when a shy woman named Lata read a sentence confidently, when Mr. Kapoor from the tea stall congratulated him, and when a young shop assistant named Vic clapped after a practice activity. The community named him Coach now, and not just a dreamer. Physical effort and daily discipline reshaped his days, as the seedling showed the first green shoots, damp soil smelling of rain and hope. Progress was not smooth. There were nights he slept late and mornings he missed water for the pot. There were doubts when a class had few students and when his voice trembled. But every small repair counted. He apologized to a parent, revised an activity after feedback from Priya, and adjusted time slots to suit working adults like Raju and Asha. The metaphor of the seed kept returning. When weeds of hesitation crept in, he pulled them out with deliberate work. He taught with simple exercises, corrected gently, and celebrated small pronunciations. Mrs. Rao visited and said, "I am proud." Samir said, "I underestimated you." Arjun learned that discipline was not punishment, but a promise kept to himself. The neighborhood now watched his habit change into a routine. The sound of the local train became a cue for his daily practice, and the smell of coffee became his morning reward. Those concrete changes made his dream yield practical result. The first month, he had 12 paying students and 2 volunteers helping with materials. Take a moment and tell us in the comments which small action you will stop postponing from today. Think about a single-word answer that you can type easily. Will you write plant? Or will you write start? Or will you write try? Share one word. Choose the habit you will begin and write it now. Many here feel stuck, fearful, or ashamed, and that is human. Your one word will be a small public promise to yourself and others. When you comment, you not only make a claim to act, but you also help someone else who reads it to feel less alone. The community here thrives when people say simple, truthful things. After you post your one word, come back to the story and see how Arjun handled the rest. Months later, the result was visible and simple. The pot on his windowsill had become a small plant, and his classes had become a steady routine. The neighborhood reacted with warmth. Raju recommended him to customers, Maya enrolled to help with materials. Priya bought a stack of notebooks, Asha baked small snacks for evening classes. Samir filmed a short clip of a student reading and it spread in local groups. The change was tangible, not grand, but real. He earned a modest income and more importantly, he built respect and habit. The seed that was planted grew because it was watered daily and because he admitted his flaw and worked against it. In the end, Arjun learned the lesson everyone in the lane already knew, that ambition without discipline stays a promise and not a practice. He found that small, regular actions beat sporadic, grand gestures. If you recognize yourself in him, pick one tiny task and do it today. Start with 5 minutes, say one sentence, plant one seed. If this story touched you, share it and subscribe for more short lessons that you can use right away. Remember the line that guided him and let it guide you. Plant now.